vamos a ver. Boy, this is going to be really fun to edit this week. Okay, aquí vamos. Aquí vamos. ¿Dónde está este botón? Por Dios. ¿Dónde fue? Breakout rooms. Ok. Otra vez. Vamos a ver. Sí, me parece bien. Ok, aquí vamos. Es correcto, 10 minutos. Bien. Buena suerte. Bueno.
Oh, I left them.
Ok. ¿Y cómo les fue? How to go for you?
Good. Bueno.
Bien, bien,
Bien.
magnífico. Ok. Voy a esperar un momentito. ¿Dónde están los otros? Nos faltan 3. We're missing 3 folks. Wow. Espero que no estén perdidos. I hope they're not totally lost in cyberspace there. I don't see them coming back. I know I didn't bump them out. I know I did not bump them out. But the gremlins could be... Oh, aquí vienen, aquí vienen. Ok, bien, mejor. Bien. Uy, qué alivio, qué alivio. Wow, what a relief. Ok, todos están aquí, todos están aquí, todos están aquí, magnífico. Quiero que ustedes practiquen con este tema una vez más para tarea. I want you to do this one more time for homework, but for me this next time. I'm going to send you off and you'll get this as the link. I want you to basically do the same thing you did with your partners, but do it just for me so I can hear the flow of your speech, okay? And your pronunciation. And I'm not going to have you do it on Nearpod because I think they still have problems with their audio, whereas the other site, when people have recorded for me, it's there. And so you'll get the link for where to go to. But I'll just ask you to do kind of a repeat. So if there's anything that you feel like you had a hitch, or you maybe had a word that was out of joint a little bit, it's your chance to kind of fix it and do it real time. ¿Tienen preguntas o no?
Su aplicación para, por ejemplo, incendios en Australia.
Sí.
El dialógico en español y la máquina decirlo. ¿Cuál es esta aplicación? ¿Es posible para practicar nuestros diálogos?
Oh, diálogos. La aplicación de... hay una app que uso que se llama teachertools.digital. ¿Es ese? Is it that one? Con la lectura, is it the one that reads back to you?
I would love to be able to put my dialogue in an application and have it recited in that fluent Spanish so I can try to imitate it.
Oh, qué buena idea. No sé si se puede hacer eso exactamente con ese app. Creo que no. Tiene una colección de voces para ese app, pero creo que no, quizás, a ver, estoy pensando, Miguel. No sé, si quieres enviarme el texto de tu diálogo, es posible que puedo escribir a máquina todo en el app y poner la voz para que puedas escuchar más tarde. Sería un poquito difícil, pero quizás es posible. Pero yo tengo que escribirlo. Tú no tienes la habilidad de escribir algo y decirle a la máquina, aquí, ahora, pon la voz.
Estoy pensando que esta nueva aplicación aquí, Translate,
sí.
Quizás esta aplicación, si
puede servir así.
Si dice en inglés, la aplicación voy a responder en español. Quizás es posible para dice en español en la aplicación también responde en español.
Sí, no sé. Tengo que buscar si hay la posibilidad. Creo que yo tengo que escribir algo en el app, en la caja de texto, y entonces puede interpretar y poner la voz con el diálogo. Pero creo que tú no tienes la habilidad de hacerlo. Quizás hay otro app en tu celular que puede hacer lo mismo, no sé. Es buena pregunta.
Voy a tratar más tarde.
Para imitar, ¿quieres algo para que puedas imitar, no?
Una otra vez.
¿Quieres un app
Ujú.
para que puedas imitar
Sí.
la pronunciación, claro?
Ujú.
¿Verdad?
Ujú.
Voy a buscar si tengo algo que puedo hacer, pero no estoy segura. Pero es buena pregunta. Vale. Quizás en su celular hay algo. ¿Tienes un producto Apple o un producto de Android?
Apple.
Apple, ok.
Apple.
Yo también voy a buscar y vamos a ver si podemos buscar y encontrar algo, no sé. Muy bien. Ahora quiero que practiquemos un poquito con una idea que está relacionada con hablar del pasado. Y esa idea ahí es cuando se usa un tiempo o otro para expresar una idea en el pasado, pero no está, esa idea no está relacionada con el imperfecto y el pretérito. Es otra cosa y voy a compartirles algo así. Uy, momentito. Ok. Perdón, otra vez. A ver. Bueno. No quiere funcionar. Estoy casi lista. Ok, aquí vamos. Y voy a enviarles a ustedes este enlace después de la clase, pero ahora vamos a ver todos juntos esta idea de cómo se expresa algo que pasó en el pasado. How do you talk about when something happened in the past? And you'll get the link for this a little bit later, okay? Voy a enviarles a ustedes el enlace. When you're talking about the past, sometimes you need to express that one thing happened before something else. So they didn't happen at the same time, okay? And sometimes you want to say, not just that relationship between preterite and imperfect of like rolling action or repeated action, but, versus a one-time event, but more that something had happened before this other event happened. So in other words, you're looking at almost like plotting timelines, right? We usually do this with past perfect. Perdón. And why does it not want to go to the next screen? ¿Por qué no funciona así? A ver, ok. Okay, it does not want to advance to my next screen. We're going to try to get it up another way. Okay, this is funky. I don't like it quite as much, but we'll make it work. Okay. Entonces, si hablamos de eventos durante el día y queremos decir, Pedro había comprado flores o Pedro le había comprado flores a su novia antes de llegar a una cita con ella. He had bought her flowers before going to the date, right? The date, la cita ocurrió, well, the date happened sometime maybe here, ¿verdad? Quizás aquí, tengo que seleccionar, quizás aquí, la cita. La cita quizás está aquí, ¿verdad? La cita. Pero había comprado flores. Había comprado flores, ocurre aquí antes de la cita, ¿verdad? Había comprado. ¿Ok? Entonces, cuando queremos expresar algo que pasó más allá en el pasado. ¿Ok? Aquí tenemos a Pedro tenía o tuvo una cita con su novia, ¿verdad? Aquí. Y él fue a la cita. Ellos comieron en un restaurante muy elegante porque fue el cumpleaños de su novia. Y antes de la cita, Pedro le había comprado flores. So when we want to say something happened before this date, which is still in the past, we want to use what is called past perfect. ¿Ok? Entonces, no es tan difícil de usar, pero deben darse cuenta de que es algo anterior a otro evento, ¿verdad? Ok. Vamos a ver. Es muy fácil de formar y se llama el pluscuamperfecto, que no importa realmente. Es como en inglés, past perfect. Es muy fácil. Usamos haber, pero haber en el imperfecto. Entonces, había, sabía, habíamos, había solamente para vosotros en España, no vamos a usar habíais para practicar. Y habían, ¿ok? Y es, como se dice en inglés, a compound tense. Hay que usar dos palabras para expresar este tiempo. La forma de haber en imperfecto y el participio pasado, hado, ido, generalmente, aunque hay muchos participios irregulares. Entonces, el participio pasado no se cambia nunca. The participio pasado is the part that does not change ever in this scenario. If you want to say somebody had worked, had bought flowers, had walked 5 blocks before they got to their destination, okay, you're talking about an event that goes further back, pushed way back into the past in this big scenario of what happened in the past. The form of haber does not, or the form of haber is what does change. This form of haber is what tells somebody who had done something, signigen.
Okay, no, el ube, comprado.
Oh, ube? Mm-hmm. Si existe V, había existe en el pretérito como hubimos, ya. No se usa con mucha frecuencia. Con muy poca frecuencia. The only way you're going to see pretérito used for that is in kind of formal writing. Conversationally, people will not use it for past perfect. Conversationally, it just isn't done. It exists. Those forms for haber in pretérito do exist, but to use it for past perfect, you're just not going to hear it. People don't mess with it. It's too final. Is all I can tell you. Es muy formal. In very stiff, formal writing, you may occasionally hear it, and hardly ever. Speaking, people will not bother with it. The second part that you have to add on to the había, habías, habíamos, etc. This is the part that does not change. This does not go into a conjugation. It's what's called a past participle, un participio pasado, okay? And it's like the equivalent of our ED in English: worked, talked, studied. He had studied. They had worked all night till they fell asleep at their desks. Okay. So regular forms of the participle will end in ado for AR verbs, ido for ER verbs, ido also for IR verbs. So they'll look like what you see here on the left, a la izquierda. A la izquierda tenemos participios pasados que son formas regulares, muy regulares. Trabajado, comprado, vendido, comido, sido, ido, estudiado, leído, entendido, cerrado, como en inglés, worked, bought, which is very irregular in English, sold, eaten, muy irregular en inglés, been, B-E-E-N, gone, ido, estudiado, studied, leído, read, entendido, understood. No habíamos entendido. We had not understood. Okay. Cerrado, closed. Okay. Son formas irregulares a la izquierda, pero a la derecha tenemos un montón de verbos que tienen formas muy irregulares en el participio pasado. Y a veces tenemos muchas formas del participio pasado en inglés que son irregulares también. A veces corresponden, otras veces no. Hecho, done, de hacer. Hecho viene de hacer. So you cannot say ha sido. Hecho. Dicho, de decir. Would it help if I put the infinitives these come from on the right when I revise this and send it out to you?
Yeah.
See? Okay. I will send out the infinitive that comes from so that you see that. This is something you've seen before, but you don't hear it all the time, so it may not have totally sunk in all those layers deeply. Hecho comes from hacer, done. Okay. Dicho comes from decir, said or told. Abierto comes from abrir, opened. See? Muerto comes from morir, died. Visto comes from ver, seen. Puesto comes from poner, put or placed. Roto comes from romper, to break. Entonces, roto es broken. Bien, escrito viene de escribir. Written, ¿sí? Vuelto viene de volver, returned, or had come back, had returned. Mi esposo había vuelto después de las 11. Había vuelto. He had come back. He had returned. Resuelto, resolved or solved something. Resolver. So vuelto from volver. Resuelto from resolver. And there are a few others. Some of them I think you are going to be, I would just be throwing out lots of extra stuff that maybe you won't use. Estos son los participios pasados más comunes, en mi opinión, que pueden usar. Entonces, a veces estas formas son más difíciles porque hay que memorizar nada más, ¿verdad? Ok. Entonces, vamos a ver un video. We're going to watch a video in a moment. Y hay más. What I want you to think about, we're going to talk about this next week. La semana que viene. Next week. So I want you to think about this. You're going to use this for prep time. You're going to look at all these people. Aquí tenemos mucha gente que están en Times Square en Nueva York. Todas estas personas, y obviamente es verano en Nueva York, están en Nueva York en Times Square, que es una plaza famosa en el centro de Manhattan. Y quiero que ustedes revisen. I want you to take a look at this when you get the link to it and think about these folks. You'll get the power to actually take the screen and move them around when you come back next week. And I will want you to talk about maybe what one or two of these people had done before this picture was taken. We're going to talk about what somebody right over is, and you can pick anybody here. This is a 3D thing. It goes all the way around. I want you to think about what somebody had done before this picture was taken, using some kind of participio pasado. Dos personas. Maybe pick one or two people. Okay? ¿Está bien?
Está bien.
Ok. Para usar la imaginación un poquito. Y ahora vamos a ver varios ejemplos del pluscuamperfecto. We're going to take a look at a few examples with pluscuamperfecto. Momentito, tengo que cambiar mi pantalla. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Ok. Estoy casi lista.
The Pluperfect, Exercise 1. What is the Spanish for?
Oh, and when we entered, the movie had already started. Okay.
Cuando entramos, la película ya había comenzado.
Aquí vemos. Here you can imagine if you had a timeline where these would be. Cuando entramos, when we came in, when we entered, the movie had already started. So what's the thing that happened? What's like the oldest event?
movie starting.
The movie has started. That's why we need the había pasado. Or había comenzado, perdón. Ok. A ver.
Para cuando llegué allí, ella ya se había ido.
Ah. Para cuando is just one way of saying by the time I got there. Para cuando llegué allí, ella ya se había ido. Se había ido. She had already left. She had already taken off. She had gone. You might have expressed that as she had already taken off. She had already left. She already went. She already went away. There are different ways we might say that in English. Okay? But that she had left happened way, way, way before that event of llegué. I arrived.
Could you
Okay.
could you say había saliendo?
Había,
Saliendo?
not yendo, not saliendo. Qué buena pregunta. Cuidado, cuidado. This is one of those things that we have to be real careful. We'll take a look at the big whiteboard. It will not be yendo or ando. And there's only one letter difference between that and the past participle. Saliendo is a present participle. We use it with estar. But salido is a past participle. We'll take a look at that after this video on a big whiteboard so you can compare the two.
No pasaron el examen porque no habían estudiado nada.
Okay, and the no habían estudiado, they had not studied. That's what, in this case, in a negative sense, had not happened.
Para cuando me llamó, yo ya había vendido mi casa.
By the time she called, and the selling of the house happened way before that thing. Sold it, all of a sudden you're done with this, sold it, and boom, 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 sonó el teléfono. Okay, phone rang. And then she called. So we're differentiating when in the past, what thing came first?
Dijeron que habían comido algo.
And this is just a statement of fact. They said, oh, that this had happened. And they said it's just they're retelling the events, but it had happened. Habían comido algo. They had eaten something. Porque me dijiste, why did you tell me? Porque me dijiste que habías hablado con ellos.
¿Por qué me dijiste que habías hablado con ellos? This is the informal to form. ¿Por qué me dijo que había hablado con ellos? This is the formal usted form.
Había hablado.
Both of these are singular. ¿Por qué me dijisteis que habíais hablado con ellos?
Okay, there's the one we're not going to practice. That's the vosotros form.
This is the informal plural form only used in Spain. ¿Por qué me dijeron que habían hablado con ellos? This is the plural form used in all of the world, and also this corresponds to the plural formal form used in Spain.
Okay, so it's the ustedes form, right? Dijeron.
Tú sabías que habíamos rechazado la oferta.
Ah, tú sabías, you knew. It's past event, but this is what happened before. Y sabías, action. Habíamos rechazado. We had turned down. Rechazar, turn down, reject. Rechazar is to reject something. If you reject it, you're turning it down, right? Habíamos rechazado la oferta. So notice, rechazado does not change to form. It doesn't become feminine. It doesn't go plural. Rechazado, no matter who does it, it's always rechazado. Always. The habíamos, there's the part that gets conjugated. There's the part that tells who had done that. In this case, we had turned it down. Habíamos rechazado.
Ella dijo que tú le habías prometido lo mismo antes. Ella dijo que usted le había prometido lo mismo antes. Ella dijo que vosotros le habíais prometido lo mismo antes. Ella dijo que ustedes le habían prometido lo mismo antes.
Okay, so notice, prometido, 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 prometido. No importa, that part does not change. Here's what changes. Habías, usted había, vosotros habíais, ustedes habían. There's the part that changes. So the beauty of the compound tense is that that first verb does the talking, it does the changing, it does the conjugating, and you don't have to worry about doing anything unusual or odd or shifting a different kind of spelling to the second part of that compound tense.
Sabía que ella había mentido. No sabíamos que ellos habían llamado.
Okay, some buenos ejemplos. These are good examples that show you how that tense is used. And in most cases, most of those were pretty simple, pretty easy examples. Let me, because Miguel, because you had a very good question, actually, let's take a look at a whiteboard here and hopefully it will allow me to get a text box up here. Ah, sí. Pueden ver. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Bien? See? And I need to actually, eso no, momentito. And I've actually got this in the wrong screen. Oops, it is not letting me out. Wait, we're going to stop the share. We're going to move this a little bit so that I can see both of you here. We're going to go back to that. Okay. A ver. Okay. Tu pregunta, your question. ¿Por qué? Why is this not working? Otra vez, mejor. Jaja. Funcionó. Ok. Tu pregunta es por qué. Ok. Había. Ella había salido. She had left. ¿Verdad? Cuidado, cuidado. No se puede decir saliendo. Those two words are very, very close together in how they are spelled. They're not very different from each other. This saliendo, this thing here with saliendo, that N means it's an ing word. Saliendo is leaving. Okay, whereas salido is left. Okay, I'm going to show you two others that are pretty darn close. Habíamos llegado. Habíamos llegado. You cannot use llegando. Llegando es arriving. That ando section, ando, makes it into what we call the present participle, arriving. And the only difference between llegado and llegando is this little letter D. So you have to listen closely for that. Besides which, estamos llegando, we can only use something like llegando or saliendo with the verb estar. Está saliendo, she's leaving. You could even put that in imperfecto and say estaba saliendo, she was leaving, okay? Estamos llegando, we are arriving. Estábamos llegando, we were arriving. Those are possibilities, but with ando or yendo, you need to use estar. With ado and ido, we can only use haber.
You raised another question for me.
Okay, dime.
Can you use llegando as a gerund by itself, like arriving early, winter was very cold or something like that?
They do not use the gerund that way. They use the infinitive where we use the gerund. So if I want to say, like arriving early, right? Llegar temprano. I'm not talking about really I'm not pairing that up with any specific person or human being. I'm just saying arriving, they'll use the gerund. They don't use the gerund, perdón. We use the gerund. We say arriving early. But they use the infinitive in that instance where we use a gerund. ¿Entiendes? It's not a straight correspondence there with the English and the Spanish. So there are different ways we use that ing. When we use the ing in a compound tense, like estábamos llegando, or estamos llegando, we are arriving, like right now it's happening, estamos llegando. Then, yes, you've got that ing feel, but this kind of thing of arriving early, por ejemplo, llegar temprano está prohibido. Arriving early is forbidden. Por ejemplo, arriving early is forbidden. Where we use a gerund in English here, they have to use the infinitive. Así es. There's no reason, it's just what they do. Perdón. Okay. ¿Ven ustedes la diferencia? Do you guys see the difference there? You don't want to inject an n sound, right? That little n sound, that little n sound, that turns it into an ing, okay? It's just ado or ido or one of those irregulars that works with this particular function. Bien, ¿entienden?
Sí.
See, okay, because I know sometimes when people speak using that, they let that n sound slip in. And that's where we get kind of, a little bit messed up because, it's just so close. It's so close in the way it sounds. So, okay. ¿Tiene preguntas? Do you have any questions on how that works? ¿Sí o no? No? Okay.
Sí, tengo una pregunta.
Ok, bueno, Ricardo, dime.
El segundo ejemplo, uso se había ido. ¿Por qué uso se?
Oh, ¿por qué se usa se? Es buena pregunta. Ok. Vamos a ver. Ok. Se había ido, ¿verdad? Right? Ok, vamos a ver. Se había ido. Es irse. Se había ido. This comes from using irse in that past perfect. Okay? So if we want to talk about ella, por ejemplo. Ella, she is the one doing the action. Ella, if we're using irse, we need to still have that little pronoun se there. And that comes in front of the conjugated verb, which is the form of haber. Se había ido. If you've got a reflexive, and that irse is essentially a reflexive, then the word se needs to go in front of the form of haber. It cannot come in between había and ido. It has to be in front of the verb that's conjugated, which is había in this sense. So it becomes se había ido.
So if you're lazy, you can just say había salido and not have to worry about it.
You could, if you want to avoid it, you want to do a workaround, sí. Sí se puede. Okay, so anytime you've got a little pronoun like se or me or nos or te, any kind of reflexive, right? That reflexive pronoun will have to be in front of haber. So it will become se había ido. She had gone away, essentially. Perdón por mi gatita. I am so sorry for my cat. I'm sure you can all hear her. Te habías ido. You had gone away. Se habían ido. They had gone away. Nos habíamos ido. We had gone away. Okay. A ver, ¿entienden? Anytime you got a little pronoun, and any pronoun at all, those are just the reflexives. If it's any other little pronoun like le, like lo, they go in front of haber. They go in front of the había form, whatever form that había takes. Those are a lot of steps. Es buena pregunta, Ricardo. That's a good question. Okay. ¿Todos entienden entonces? Básicamente. So I want you to look at that little 3D picture when you get into the link of that site, kind of pick out a person And you'll get to talk about somebody and tell what they had done just before that picture was taken. ¿Está bien? That'll be a short one. Algo corto. We'll do some other exercises to warm up just to make sure you got the form down, okay, before you go off to do that independently. But you'll have that, you'll have the movie, and we'll throw in a little, really a short reading because 10 minutos is going to take, you're probably going to have to watch 10 minutos about 3 times to really get the hit of everything that's going on. Don't be surprised if you have to watch it about 3 times. I will recommend right off the bat that you slow it down to that 0.75 speed on YouTube. Slow it down. I'll put the reminder for you to do that in the email link. ¿Está bien?
Yeah.
Ok, vale, magnífico. Entonces, ya llegó la hora. Okay, the time has come. Son las 7:30. Y es hora de irnos. It's time to take off. ¿Está bien?
Está bien.
Vale,
Adiós.
muchísimas gracias. Si tienen preguntas durante la semana, díganme, claro, como siempre. Y ahora está, se acabó la clase. Ok, class is over now. So,
Gracias por todos.
que sí, espero que tengan muy buen fin de semana, Las temperaturas son mejores ahora, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Podemos hacer mucho más afuera durante el fin de semana y esto me encanta. Por fin.
Están bajando.
Ok, muy bien. Nos vemos.
Adiós.
Adiós. Buenas
Hasta
noches.
luego. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.